Yes, welcome in. We are back. I promised we would be back, Jesse, if Wisconsin won, and here we are. Wisconsin upset number 9 Arizona on Friday night at the Kohl Center, a raucous Kohl Center. You know how that Toby Keith song, I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. Something like that. Like I think that's that was the Toby Keith song that played over and over and over again. That's kind of the Kohl Center sometimes. Like it's like, yeah, 20 years ago, there was when Wisconsin hadn't established itself as great. There were a lot of really good crowds, even for some of the smaller big games. But when a big game comes to the Kohl Center, that place can still absolutely rock. And it was rocking on Friday night, in large part because of what Wisconsin did to Arizona. They beat them. They put 103 points on them. I would not have bet that before the game.
I did not have 103 on the bingo card. It's the most points Wisconsin's ever scored against a ranked team in program history. And they did it in the ways that Greg Gard wants and the things that differentiate this team, which I think is, I know we discussed it on the previous show with some of the behind the scenes stuff that I had a chance to be privy to, but like open threes, layups, free throws, no mid-range jumpers, because analytics have shown that the points per possession numbers are not where they need to be. And it's not like you're going to take 0 because you're going to be in spots where the shot clock's running down or something happens. But they made a lot of threes. They got to the free throw line a ridiculous amount. And you had John Tonje doing work, scoring 41 points with Frank Kaminsky in the house, nearly breaking the program record. That helps a lot.
Yeah, we're going to jump into all of it. We'll play a little overreaction or no as well later here in the show. Obviously, a lot of people that are watching this are also Badger football fans. We did our show yesterday. Per usual, news breaks right after we get done with it. But we did do a show. Phil Longo, obviously out as Wisconsin's offensive coordinator. We did do a show before that, breaking down all the Oregon games. You can still check that out. Also did a live stream, myself and Ben Kenny. You can also check that out if you missed it yesterday, talking all about Phil Longo. And we'll be back on the camp tomorrow to discuss more about the fallout, I guess, from Luke Fickell's decision to part ways with his offensive coordinator. However, this is a basketball show, so we're going to talk basketball today. Before we do, Home Field Apparel is the official apparel sponsor of the camp. They have unmatched vintage gear in the college game. And if you're looking for something for, the holiday season, it's going to be a great place to go to. So many good, different, and new designs from Home Field. And it's not just Wisconsin. They've got practically every college you could possibly hope. If you're into this Indiana revival down that Kirk Cignetti has undertaken, they put out a ton of Indiana stuff. They're obviously an Indiana company, but go check them out, homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code Bucky24 for 15% off your first purchase, and that obviously certainly helps us as well. But let's jump into this, Jesse. It is that game Friday night. I think we both kind of talked about it. We were a little, I don't know, maybe we didn't talk about it, but I was talking with others about it, how surprising, like the spread was so low. Like for a top 10 team to come into Wisconsin, it was only like 3.5 or 4. And I was like, that maybe they know something we don't. Did they know Wisconsin was going to shoot 47 free throws?
I don't think anybody knew Wisconsin was going to shoot 47 free throws, least of all Arizona's coach. That game was 4-hour game, I felt like.
Oh, it was like one of those football games where all they did was pass, and there was a whole lot of incomplete passes. But yeah, I mean, the game went 2 hours. I think it was 2 hours and 27 minutes, which for a game that did not go to overtime is a very long game in college basketball. That said, we should probably start in just a minute. Arizona shot 40.
Yes.
As Tommy Lloyd was leaving the press conference, I don't know if he said it just to anybody in particular or was just saying on the way. He goes, I've never seen anything like that. And he was still pissed off about it. And it felt like he was like, well, home cooking, Wisconsin, 47 free throws. They shot 40. So it was just a really, really tough game to watch because of all the fouls. What wasn't tough to watch was John Tonje putting up 41 points if you're a Wisconsin fan. And the fact that he did 21 of 22 from the free throw line, set the new school record for free throws in a game. And the record that he broke, Nigel Hayes set it, or tied it, I should say, back in whatever that was 2017 against Indiana. That game went to overtime. I think it actually went to double overtime. This one did not go to overtime, and he's just an amazing free throw shooter. But the fact that he was able to get to the line the way he was, or get into the paint the way he was, I think there were some questions whether it could actually happen against athletic and quality competition that he hadn't seen in the first 3 games. It worked. It worked no matter who it was. And he's not going to score 41 every game, but what a hell of a time to do it for them.
You want to talk about maybe the transfer portal steal of college basketball? That might sound like some hyperbole, but like
through 4 games.
But like honestly, he's briefly committed to New Mexico. Very clearly, Wisconsin has a big board and they're pursuing other guys, and it ends up that they have John Tonje to replace AJ Storr. And maybe this is a conversation for a later date, but I think I'd take John Tonje between those two, at least in Wisconsin system and what he's been able to do, because he's a 3-level scorer. He can hit threes. He consistently gets to the line, and he's the biggest reason why Wisconsin right now leads the nation in free throw shooting at 90%. Yeah, there are other guys, but it's absurd. And he got every call when he went to the rim, but he showed the aggressiveness and has this innate ability to draw fouls and capitalize. And that is, not only is it demoralizing for a defense, but you're racking up fouls and starting to have to change your rotation of who's going to even try to defend him.
Yeah, 21 to 22. He's 37 for 39 on the year from the free throw line. It's crazy. Max Klesmit has not yet missed from the free throw line either. I think he's either 14 for 14 or 15 for 15. And John Blackwell has missed a couple, but I think he's like 11 for 13. They're 90 of 100 from the free throw line so far this year. And I just remember back to all the times that we've had conversations about whether free throw shooting is going to cost this team in big games. It feels like free throw shooting in big games may win the games for Wisconsin if they're able to continue. They're not going to shoot 90% for the year unless John Tonje's taken every single one of them. But they are a very good free throw shooting team right now. And I guess it's kind of the opposite of what it used to be, right? You have your worst free throw shooters taking a lot of shots, Ethan Happ, Nigel Hayes, fill in the blank here. And now you've got your best free throw shooter taking a lot of them. And that certainly worked for him. But it wasn't just the 3-point game. Or it wasn't just the free throw line. 3-point game was on for him as well. 4 or 6 from beyond the arc. He just had it all going. And how do you slow that down if you're an Arizona team? I'll say this. You kind of took one of my overreaction no's. So let's try to avoid talking about the AJ Storr and John Tonje at this point. But that said, he doesn't have like off the charts athleticism. He's not an above the rim type of player like AJ Storr was, but he can still get to his spots very, very smoothly, I will say, and find a little bit of opening to get a shot off. But I don't know if he's going to shoot like that from outside and he's able to draw fouls the way he is. He's tough to guard.
Greg Gard used the term quite frequently in the preseason about this old man skill and strength and all that stuff. But I can understand where he's coming from. It's that knowledge of the game where he's not going to get sped up. He's going to get to his locations and he's just going to take advantage of you. That's someone who played multiple years at Colorado State, obviously didn't really get the chance a year ago at Missouri, but comes in here super confident in his ability and what he's about, has been embraced by the team and really fits seamlessly into what this offense strives to be. I don't know that he's going to make 67% of his threes in a lot of games and obviously get to the line 20 plus times, but it's a glimpse of what's possible for him. I certainly don't think he's going to, get to the line twice a game. Like that is one of the strongest assets about his game. And so it's not unreasonable to think he can get 8 to 12 free throws in every game. Now you wonder what officials are going to call when they have a better understanding of his game, but like, he has that ability and he is a true 3-level scorer. And that is just such a quality to have in somebody who can come in for 1 year.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I'm always intrigued by when a guy goes to another school and just has, really big games. I go and look what the teams that had him before are saying. Like I'm a message boarder. I'm a message board churcher. I have no problem saying that. Love seeing what other fan bases are saying. And Colorado State, very, very happy for him, right? He gave the time that he had to Colorado State, was a very good player. And, you move on and move up. Missouri, very much wishing they had not let him go. Obviously, he had the injury last year and only averaged like 2 points a game. I think he only played in 8 games, 9 games, whatever it was. They were a little disappointed that he was no longer at Mizzou. I didn't go to New Mexico because I feel like they don't really have, they're probably a little upset, but he was too good for New Mexico. He was way too good for New Mexico, and Wisconsin obviously got a huge, huge steal in getting him in, because you didn't know what it was going to be, right? Like he was good at Colorado State. We heard the Missouri coach say he was at times the best player on the court for them before the injury. So, I mean, there's evidence that he was going to be pretty good. It's just the fact that maybe nobody else saw that. It's kind of crazy that New Mexico was the only other option for him.
I think it's interesting, too, that maybe it's worth discussing that this staff deserves some credit for being able to identify somebody. I mean, the AJ Storr comp a year ago, not stepping on the overreaction or but just the fact that you can go get somebody and put him in and he becomes a player on a different level to elevate your program. You could think, oh, lightning doesn't strike twice, but they've done it again. And that is not easy. That takes a lot of being able to identify a player and how they'll fit, and then they come in and you allow them to maximize their skill set. Now, I will say that the transfer portal, to me, maybe it's less so in basketball, but still, crapshoot may be a strong word. But they got three transfer portal guys, and I think before we saw any of them play, I didn't really know what that was going to look like. I thought Cameron Hunter might end up being their starting point guard. Now, he's been sick early in the year, but clearly it's Kamari McGee and Xavier Amos is getting some minutes off the bench, and I think he's starting to show a little more of what he can do. But I didn't know Tonje was going to be a definitive starter, and it's without question now.
Yeah, Xavier Amos, not shy at shooting. Hit a couple of big ones for sure the other night. But yeah, John Tonje is right now obviously perhaps the biggest steal, as you mentioned, in the portal, especially for Wisconsin, because of what they needed, right? Of what they were trying to replace. And yeah, he's been fantastic. You mentioned the free throws per game. You're saying I think you said, what'd you say, 8 to 12?
I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that consistently. I'm saying I don't expect 20 plus,
right?
But that's a huge part of his game.
Prior to the other night, his career high was 9, and I believe that was set against Holy Cross in the opener. So it's not like, I mean, he was usually, I should say, 6, 7, 8 a game. To explode for 22 is obviously probably the outlier. But to get there a double-digit number of times of the game, I think Wisconsin is certainly going to be hoping for that. And he has, save, I think, for one game where I think he only went a couple times, 3 times. He's been there consistently. And when he gets there, he knocks it down. It'd be one thing if he's drawing all these fouls and then shooting 70%. It's good. Like 70%, I guess, it's fine. But when you're going to hit 37 for 39, oof. Yes, I think Greg Gard and company are going to be just fine with that. The other thing that stood out for me, they still got ways to go on defense, but offensively, they continue to shoot the 3 well. They have now, in 36 games last year, they hit more than, or 11 or more threes twice. They've done it 3 times in their first 4 games this year already. They hit 12 the other night, and I think we're 12 for 27. I think it was. That's my numbers are accurate here. Yeah. So they've. It's not like they're shooting 70%, 60, but the 12 for 25 to 12 for 27 is way over the allotted 1 point per possession, which is what obviously they're looking for on a regular basis. So yeah, I mean, that 3-point shooting combined with being efficient around the basket, good start.
The 3-point shooting is going to be a talking point, probably for us, and I imagine with fans the rest of the season, because the question then becomes, is this sustainable? And there's truly no way of knowing, because we've seen plenty of teams have hot starts at Wisconsin, 40% range or somewhere near that. And then it just fizzles out. But what you're seeing is that you have multiple players capable of it. And I think that's what's so important. Greg has talked about this shift in college basketball, especially over the last 10 years. And he refers to it as kind of like this trickle down effect from the NBA or professional. And he's not, I mean, he's right. Like, fewer big guys are just muscle men in the post. You have a lot of big guys with stretchability who can extend the floor and draw defenses out. And when I was talking to him, he said the days of the 50 to 48 games are behind us, at least for the most part. And I think I will breathe a sigh of relief about that, because as much as I love defense, what do they say? Chicks dig the long ball. I mean, give me the points. So, but he knew he needed more scoring and better shooters. And that was a big part of the plan in attacking the portal the way they did, certainly with Tonje and Amos. And the 3-point shot is going to be a huge part of this philosophy. And really this overall philosophical shift of what Wisconsin wants to be as an offense. They are taking and making, and I know it's only 4 games, more threes per game than at any point since the inception of the 3-point line in 1986, and at least for Wisconsin as a program. And you can go back and look. I want to say 5 years ago, they took about 24 a game, and they've never made on average more than 9. I think 8.7 is the high. And so are they going to make 10 a game? Hard to say, but 27 threes a game feels pretty normal to me. I mean, what did Greg say when we had him on the show? That the number 25 to 30 or 22 to 27 or something like that?
I thought it was like 27 to 32 or something like that, because it was they were coming off a game where I think they shot in the 30s. So yeah. I think he was getting to that number.
But the point is, this is what you can expect. And I think it's tremendously entertaining, frankly.
Yeah, as long as they're making them. Right? If they're going 2 for 32, you know.
Yeah. I have some memories a few years ago of them doing something similar to that in an early season tournament. That was not pretty.
I have a memory of them doing it in the NCAA tournament against Iowa State at the Bradley Center, or at the Bradley Center at Fiserv Forum. So, I mean, it wasn't that bad, but I think they went like 2 for 22 or something like that. It wasn't good, which is usually what happens in the games that they lose in the tournament. They shoot horribly from the outside. It's not usually that they're losing because of their defense in the tournament. Though this past spring, I think it was the offense and the defense. But yeah, so before we jump into the overreaction, the game itself, Wisconsin jumps out to this 18-point lead, and you're like, Arizona's going to make a run here at some point. I didn't know if they were going to make a run all the way back, but that's exactly what they did. They erased an 18-point lead, gone just 5:47 into the second half because Arizona got to the basket with ease. And, some of Wisconsin's issues in, defensively were trying to play defense without fouling, but which was just almost impossible for either team. But they got inside way too easy and were able to finish way too easy. That was just in that stretch. That's what it was. But I think the bigger news coming out of that is Wisconsin's response. They went on a 20-9 run after it was tied at 65. And I know Greg Gard talked about it after the game, but I thought that was such a huge sign of, gosh, we gave them an 18-point lead, all the adversity that, comes along with playing a number 9 team in the country, and they're feeling good about themselves. How do you stop this? You answer with a run of your own. And after going up, it was a 29 run. They never trailed or never were leading by less than double digits the rest of the way.
We may look back on this down the road and say, oh, Arizona wasn't actually that good of a team. They're picked to finish fifth in the Big 12.
I don't know, man.
That's what I was going to say is I struggle to see that because of how much talent they have. But nonetheless, it's still a top 10 team coming in here in an electric environment where Wisconsin could have fizzled when Arizona made that run. And the way they responded says a lot about, I think, the toughness of this team. To allow themselves to get a signature victory here early in the season and try to build your NCAA tournament resume. So yeah, I was shocked to find out Arizona was picked 5th in the league, but it's also the toughest league in the country. And they still have Caleb Love and talented big man. And I mean, that's a really good team. So it's a great win for Wisconsin.
Definitely was. And we get the court storm. You're okay with it, right?
Court storming?
Yeah.
Live it up, man. You're not a ranked team. I think there's certain thresholds. Like, let's say Wisconsin was a top 15 team or something like that, and you knew they were going to be good. Slightly problematic in my mind, though. You're free to enjoy whatever you want. They're picked to finish tied for 12th in the Big Ten. And nobody knew they'd be any good this season, and they might not be down the road, but they're 4-0 right now, and they're a top 25 team now.
We think.
Book it.
Okay, all right. Because we're doing this before the polls release, so if that's inaccurate,
I'll be shocked.
Yes, so will I be. But I'm just saying, if it's inaccurate, that's on Jesse. The thing about it is, like, against Marquette last year, I stayed on the periphery of it. Like, I went down there. I like getting the video. I like being in the middle of it. Like, the content that comes along with it. I like that aspect of being down there. I never did that in school. I mean, I didn't go to UW, but I never went, like, when I was at games and they would beat teams, and I was in school and they were winning their first, Big Ten titles and under Bo. I would never go down there, but I've done it since as a reporter, going down there because you just have the access. So just go down and do it. And this time I got caught in the middle of it, and it's crazy. Have you ever been involved in it?
Once. It's very scary. Not as a reporter. Strangely enough, I lived in Iowa City my first 2 years of high school, and so went to an Iowa football game. Maybe I've said this before, I don't know, but it was 1999, I want to say. It was Kirk Ferentz' first year. Iowa had the longest losing streak in college football at that time, and they beat Michigan State. I think Michigan State was a top 25 team, and so I stormed the field. I will never do that again.
I have no problem with kids. And I'll say this: I was not the oldest person in there, but I was probably close. But I don't have a problem. Like, I have zero problem with the kids doing it. But there were people on the ground in there, and that to me is like the scary part of it. But yeah, like, I would see somebody go down, and I'd, like, try and help them up, because that is like I don't know if it's an irrational fear, but just a fear of, like, getting stomped to death. Like, did you ever have, like, a game-winning play when you were a kid or in high school or whatever it was, and, like, do those dog piles? Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone, like, or were you involved? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
Being on the bottom of that is, like, the thing that I could give me nightmares.
Yeah.
Like, can I breathe? Am I going to be able to get out of here to breathe?
Yeah, it's a massive humanity in a very confined space. I suppose, fortunately, things went as well as could have happened, as far as we know. And
it was great.
Yeah.
And look, some of these people were falling on the ground because they had some drinks. The smell of booze in that environment was very noticeable, and good on them. I would have done the exact same thing if I were them. So, but yeah, court storming, the first of the year. We'll see if it's the only time. Little overreaction or no, Jesse. John Tonje is a better pickup than AJ Storr or has been a better pickup, and will be a better pickup than AJ Storr was a year ago.
Not overreaction
or no? Okay, not an overreaction.
I'm taking it, and I feel like that's me just totally knocking AJ, and I don't want to do that because that was a real revelation. I don't know that anybody really, other than maybe the staff, recognized what he'd be able to do. Now, I know he was the Big East Freshman of the Year, right? Averaged about 8.8 points per game, but he took his game to another level. He used the coaching, but I also think defensively they had some issues. And Tonje, they give them. You think they still do?
I mean, John Tonje, I mean, he's still a work in progress there for sure.
But I think Tonje just seems to give them more, and it's a different type of wing, right? It's not he's going to get out on a fast break and fly over your head and dunk on you type of guy. Not that he can't do it, but I just really like what Tonje provides in a number of different ways.
So AJ Storr averaged 16.8 points and what was it? About 4 rebounds per game. You're going to get more. You're going to get probably more out of Tonje in different things, but I think it's just the efficiency wise. Certainly,
exactly.
Also free throw wise, AJ Storr shot 81% from the free throw line. You kind of forget that he was really, really good when he got to the line. He got to the line, or shot, I should say, 4 free throws a game. Is that right? That can't be right, is it? Yeah, only 4.3 free throws per game. I feel like John Tonje will be shooting more than that and getting more points there, even though he does not have the same game as AJ. And I also think he's better with the ball. Now, he has turned it over. There's no doubt about that. Like, through these first 3 games, but I think he's got a better handle than AJ Storr. A little bit tighter handle. If you would agree or no?
I think so. Yeah. It's hard to argue with what we've seen so far, but obviously both players brought something dynamic to Wisconsin to lift them. And AJ is a big reason why that when they went to that ball screen continuity offense a year ago under Kirk Penny, all of a sudden they started averaging 10 plus more points per game, or pretty close to that, from 65 something to 74. That doesn't happen without AJ. And I think in part maybe lays the foundation for what they're able to do now.
Should we call our show Ball Continuity?
You know, Grant Bills asked me Ebo asked me this question on the radio if we're still allowed to call it the swing. And I said, well, we had Greg on and we asked him for permission. And I think it sounds a heck of a lot better than ball screen continuity on the podcast.
I think it does too. I would agree with that. Another overreaction note, Wisconsin is an offensive team more than they are a defensive team.
Well, I'll say not overreaction just because of the way they're scoring, but I don't want to confuse that with how important and how much Greg is stressing defense. Like, that still matters a ton. And again, I'll go back to when I was in the film room and he's rolling through plays, and this was the morning after the Montana State game. Yeah, they're watching some offense, but a lot of it is your defensive principles and rules. How do you defend the ball screen? Where's the help supposed to come from? That stuff matters a ton. And if you can't play defense, you're probably not going to be on the floor. I think Connor Essegian is a pretty decent example of that. He can certainly shoot the lights out, though I know he struggled a year ago. Like, defense matters, but offense, I think what we're seeing is wins games. And it was interesting because one of the things Greg said was they added up the point total from opening night in college basketball. The staff did, to see what did the winning team have. And now I'm forgetting the number, so excuse me, but it was like 89.6 points. I get some of those were blowouts against bad teams, but the point was you need offense. So I'm going to pick offense over defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that works. Connor Essegian currently shooting 5 threes a game, shooting 35%, averaging about 10 points for the Huskers in his, I think it's 4 games, and he started one of them. So just updating on some of the guys that have left. AJ Storr averaging 10 points a game for Kansas, coming off the bench. Do you think he's the most expensive bench player in the country right now?
Got to be up there.
Good
problem to have for Kansas, though.
Absolutely. A fantastic problem to have for Kansas. What was this going to be? Oh, Wisconsin is a second weekend tournament team. Is that an overreaction or no?
Oh, overreaction. I think I'm in the Badgers football lane now. If you're going to have to do it before I'm going to say that this is happening.
You mean get to the second weekend before you're willing to say it?
Yeah, because now it's been 8 years, something like that. They certainly have the capability, and what makes them have that potential to me is the 3-point shooting. It's just a difference maker. If they can do that, 12 for 27, even 10 for 27, which was, I think, 37% coming into that Arizona game, that gives you a shot.
Wisconsin will finish 5th or better in the Big Ten. Is that an overreaction or no? And before you answer that, I had a note, and this note is from April.
Yeah,
and it came while we were in the McLean Center. It came when we had zero idea of who was going to be at Wisconsin and who was not going to be at Wisconsin, because it was right after the tournament and it was before Chucky left. You kind of knew that AJ Storr was going to be gone. But I wrote this down because myself and Evan Flood, we were talking about basketball, and Jesse said, and this is the exact quote from the note that I have here. Jesse says Wisconsin will finish 5th in the Big Ten next year. And I have a little asterisk next to the 5th part because it says he wants it noted he didn't know how many teams were actually in the Big Ten.
I forgot 18 were coming. So now you're going to hold me to it. I would like at least a little wiggle room to say 7th, but if you're going to make me pick 5th, I'm going to say, yeah, let's go for it. I know on our preseason show, I said they weren't going to make the tournament, but hell, how can I say that now?
Yeah, no, you knew this was going to come up at some point. I mean, we've talked about it off the air. We've talked about it, when we were talking basketball, but yeah, I mean, you knew this was coming at some point. My last one here is Devin Harris's number should be in the rafters next to Frank Kaminsky and Alondo Tucker.
Not overreaction. I know he didn't stay for his senior year, but that's for a reason. He was the 5th pick in the NBA draft. He helped him win the back-to-back Big Ten titles. To me, it's without question. And if Bo Ryan believes it, I'm not going to question that.
I mean, I thought it was subtle. Other people didn't think it was subtle. When Bo Ryan was introduced and was doing his halftime thing, and he had Devin down there. Now, I think does Devin work for the university now?
That one.
Is he I can't remember. It's irrelevant. No, I think maybe he was back to get his degree, which I think he got last December. I guess it's relevant, but either way, he was down on the floor during Bo's speech, and Bo said something. Devin, where are your eyes taking you up there right now? And it's just a little bit of a nod to him saying he should be in there, and I agree. Look, he was as electric as any player that has played at Wisconsin. He was a huge part of that revival. I mean, he won 2 Big Ten regular season titles. He won a conference tournament title. If not for Londo Tucker getting hurt in 2004, that 2003-04 season, they may have made a deep run, even a very deep run in that tournament. Instead, they had to play Pitt for some reason in that second round in Milwaukee. But I think he's up on if you're going to talk about the best players that have ever been at Wisconsin, he's definitely in that conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Hopefully at some point he'll be honored up there. It's not like they're handing him out like candy. I mean, he was an All-American and obviously a really special player for Wisconsin. If you want to ask who's the best point guard Wisconsin's ever had, I mean, there's obviously going to be some other guys. Yeah, people think very fondly, certainly, of Tracy Webster because of that 94 team, and understandably so. Jordan Taylor's assist to turnover ratio was tremendous, but Devin Harris, in terms of explosiveness and scoring ability his junior year, and clutchness, dude made the free throw that helped him win a Big Ten title. Absolutely should be up there.
And made the brilliant pass to Freddie Owens in the corner for the game-winning 3 against Tulsa in the 03 tournament that pushed them into the Sweet 16. Like he was that dude. And maybe his overall numbers, because he didn't play his senior year, are a little bit different. But you talk about one of the more exciting players in school history. He's there. The question is, like, they don't necessarily, it doesn't feel like they have a criteria for who goes and who doesn't. I feel like there needs to be a criteria set. And maybe they are coming up with that. It just feels like, Frank was the player of the year and Finley was as good as, anything that Wisconsin's ever had. The bigger question is, does Londo Tucker ever get his number up there?
Going to be tough.
After how, yeah. I mean, it's going to be quite a while, you would think. But is there anybody else? That reminds me, actually. When I posted the Devin Harris thing, he was obviously number 34. Tim Locum played for Wisconsin, tweeted, it should be for him and for Howard Moore that you put that number up there. I don't know how you would do that, but I certainly think that would be a pretty touching gesture and a very appropriate one for sure. I think that's it. Wisconsin does play tonight. What is it? University of Texas, Grand Valley State. No, what is it? Rio Grande Valley, something like that.
Apologies.
I'll find it, but like, it's Rio Grande something. Texas, Rio Grande Valley. All right. Fantastic. Would really, really be a tough one if they were to lose that.
Well, you know how we do our show. 5 seconds
we do.
After it comes out, some crazy something happens.
Yeah. So Wisconsin obviously has that game, and then things will pick back up as they get ready to head to the Greenbrier Classic. What is that? I really should have pulled all this stuff up before.
I think they've got UCF on Friday.
They do. They have UCF on Friday, and then obviously whoever they'll get in the second game, and then they're back home the following week to play Chicago State. They get a weekish off before that. So we'll see how it all plays out. Wisconsin 4-0. Jesse says they're a top 25 team. We'll see if that's the case. And we'll be back next week to perhaps wrap it up, or I should say catch up with where things were at out in, is that West Virginia?
Probably.
God, we're not, the details aren't great right now. It's fine. I'm pretty sure the Greenbrier's in West Virginia. All right, Jesse, thank you very much.
Thanks, Zach.
All right, there he is. Jesse Temple from The Athletic. You've been listening to The Swing.